Guess what? Apple is getting ready for a secret October event. Yeah, I'm surprised myself. I wasn't really expecting this, but apparently it's true. With Mark Gurman from Bloomberg, who has an excellent track record, saying that Apple is basically like giving us a last minute surprise, planning some sort of like press release or maybe some like mini event where they invite people out to view new Macs on either October 30th or October 31st, like literally at the end of the month. So for this video, I want to go over all the new Macs that we are expecting for this October 2023 surprise. Like, this is really last minute. I was not expecting this. So I'm kind of excited because I thought, okay, it's going to be an easy end of the year for Greg. You know, you got the iPhone 15 Pro videos coming out doing good. And it's like, oh, I'm going to be able to relax. And now I'm just kind of like, oh, I guess there's a lot more work to do, but hey, I'm here to do it. So let's cover it. So now Mark Gurman seems to be pretty confident that there's at least one new Mac coming. So I want to cover that one first. And he seems to think that it's going to be the 24-inch iMac. And this is the Mac that needs to be updated the most. Don't forget, this Mac is still on the M1 chip. When all the other Macs got updated to M2 chips, Apple completely skipped over updating the iMac. What will Apple do with this iMac? I think it's fair to say that like the easiest route that Apple could go is update it to the M2 chip. The M2 chips have been out for a long time now, and Apple could easily just be like, you know what, this iMac, just slap the M2 in it, update it before the holiday season, maybe get like a nice little rush of sales in. But I feel like that's kind of lazy, especially because the M3 chip is basically almost ready to go. Like the A17 Pro chip architecture that is in the iPhone 15 Pro, that is basically the same 3nm architecture that would be with an M3 chip. So if Apple is looking to update Macs and they're looking at like their oldest Macs, and maybe they need like a low volume M3 product compared to like the MacBook Air, well, that would be the iMac. So even though I think, yes, like the easiest route for Apple would be put an M2 chip in the 24-inch iMac, I kind of think, okay, this is going to be the first M3 Mac. And that's exciting because the M3 chip, again, it's going to be the first 3nm Mac chip, and the performance gains for that should be pretty exciting. And the efficiency with those performance gains, again, maybe not like the best, chip to debut in an iMac, because who cares about battery life? Like, there is no battery life in an iMac. It's plugged into the wall, but I think it's going to be an exciting chip, and we can kind of see like an eke of what this 3nm M3 process is actually capable of. So that's kind of like the upgrade for the 24-inch iMac. Right now, it's basically rumored to be a spec bump. It's either going to be the M2 chip or the M3 chip, and I'm kind of guessing it's going to be M3. Other upgrades that could go into this 24-inch iMac, there's really nothing rumored, but if I'm thinking about it realistically, I could foresee like some small quality of life improvements going into the iMac. Number one, the accessories that ship with the iMac charge via lightning port, right? So you have the Magic Keyboard, the Magic Mouse, the Magic Trackpad, all have lightning ports at the end of it. Apple obviously just got rid of the lightning port on the iPhone. So maybe one of the reasons why they want to update this iMac before the end of the year is they just want to get rid of all those lightning accessories. See, the more I'm calculating this, the more I'm adding it up as the video goes on, the more it makes sense that the iMac is going to launch first. So yeah, they'll launch the iMac. They got to kill the Magic Mouse. They got to kill the Magic Trackpad and the Magic Keyboard with the lightning port, but then they're going to bring refresh versions of those along with the USB-C port, and that'll be a more cohesive experience. They can finally get rid of all their old lightning products, and we kind of saw that with the recent Apple Pencil announcement, which was a weird one, but they brought out a USB-C Apple Pencil for like the budget model. So yeah, so they'll bring that over to the iMac. That'll definitely be an upgrade. And then I think they might do small things with like the camera. So currently like the iMac has like a 1080p camera, which is actually pretty good. But for some reason, I feel like they're going to put that center stage camera in that's in the studio display. I just feel like they have that in the iPads. They have that in the studio display. When the iMac launched, I guess it wasn't like really ready for like the center stage features. But like, I feel like they're going to want that like camera that moves around and follows you, which will be interesting because it might be like a slight downgrade because the 1080p webcam in the iMac has better quality than any of the center stage webcams they have shipped so far, so it'll be interesting to see if that actually turns out to be true. And then maybe some nice little panel upgrades. Maybe like the panel will get like a little bit brighter for the display, maybe match up to the studio display panel, which gets up to 600 nits of brightness. I believe the iMac panel maxes out at 500 nits. So those are the kinds of updates I think we can expect. Oh, and also new colors. Maybe some new colors because the iMac launched with all those nice colors. Another way they can refresh this product and bring some excitement to the design. I don't think the design is really changing It's gonna look the same, but a way to refresh that is to bring in new colors. And I think realistically, that's like the best we can hope for this iMac design, and that's good enough. Like the new design looks great. The 24-inch size is really good for most people, and they just really need to upgrade that M1 chip, bring in an M3 chip, give it, you can max it out with more memory, maybe more storage, and just have a faster iMac. And I think that's going to be exciting. The other thing though is that Gurman says there still is a bigger iMac coming. One of the bad things about when the 24-inch iMac launched was that they just got rid of the old 27-inch Intel iMac, an iMac that I used to use all the time. I ran the Greg's Gadgets channel on a 27-inch iMac, so that product was near and dear to my heart. But during the transition from Intel to Apple Silicon, they basically got rid of that, replaced it with the Studio display and like a Mac Mini or a Mac Studio combo. And people are kind of wondering, like, oh, is the bigger iMac dead? But Mark Gurman says like Apple is still working on it, but they just had to like shelve it for a while. Now, when they update this new M2 or M3 iMac, that is not coming along. So do not expect the bigger, 27-inch iMac to be refreshed. But Gurman says by either the end of 2024 or early 2025, they are working on like a pro version of the iMac. And that apparently is going to be like a pretty big overhaul. Like it's going to have not a 27-inch display, but a 32-inch display. So that'll be the biggest display they've ever shipped in an iMac. And then the chipset in that is going to be even better than what you can get on a 24-inch iMac. And that's going to be something like the M3 Pro chip and the M3 Max chip. Those are perfect candidates to go in that bigger iMac. And the other big rumor with that is the reason why Apple shelved that iMac and they didn't release it right away is because they are working on putting a mini LED display into that iMac. They were going to have like an HDR capable display, maybe have 120 hertz, just like the MacBook Pros have. And apparently that component was really driving up the cost where they kind of had to say, okay, we'll develop this a little bit later when we can launch it at the price point we want. But that sounds really exciting to me. As someone that uses a Mac Studio right now with a Studio display, if they release a 32-inch iMac that has a 120 hertz refresh rate display with mini LED, like an HDR capable display, I might lose out on some performance switching over from Mac Studio, but the display plus the performance combo of that, man, it might make me into an iMac user all over again. And I'm actually really excited because the one thing that, switching between my current MacBook Pro and over to the Studio display, it's like, oh, I kind of do wish it was HDR capable. I kind of do wish it did have 120 hertz. And right now, I guess like the cables don't have enough bandwidth to do that, but if it's built into the iMac, they can do that. And if it's anything like the first 5K iMac launch, it's probably gonna be like a bargain when you combine all those display technologies and the power together. Like it's gonna be expensive, but when you like price out like a separate display and a separate computer, it's actually probably gonna be a pretty good deal. So I'm actually really excited for that one. But again, we gotta wait till late 2024 or early 2025. So I'm gonna put that out of my head for now. I don't want to think about it. Okay, so the iMac is the most likely Mac to be refreshed for that October launch event, but apparently it might not be the only one because Gurman seems pretty confident as well. Well, less confident, but still confident that Apple may be refreshing MacBook Pros at the end of the month as well for the 13-inch MacBook Pro, the 14-inch MacBook Pro, and the 16-inch MacBook Pro. Now, again, Gurman is a little less confident in this, even in like his newsletter. He says he thinks they'll launch because he looks at the website and says they're in short supply. And like if you look at the shipping dates for some of the configurations, they're all the way out until November, which usually is a good indication that, okay, maybe there is a new product coming. So basically, if these MacBook Pros come out, the base level 13-inch MacBook Pro. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with that, if it's still going to have the same design with the touch bar, or if they're going to elevate that design finally to what like the 14-inch MacBook Pro is, maybe include some more ports on it. I hope they do that, but there's currently no rumors of that happening. But basically, it would have the same M3 chip that is found in the iMac, so like 8 CPU cores, 10 GPU cores. And another big rumor with that M3 chip, which I didn't cover with the iMac, is apparently like the memory for each model is going to be increasing. So instead of getting 8 gigabytes of unified memory standard, it would be 12 gigabytes of memory, which would be pretty good, right? I feel like most people can get by on 12 gigabytes, and that's going to make the base model a easier recommendation. Also, with the M3 Pro chip that's going into the 14-inch iMac, that's going to be pretty powerful as well. So that is now going to move over to a 14 CPU core design and up to 20 GPU cores. And then on the Max chip, that apparently is going to have even more CPU cores, so it's gonna have a 16 CPU core design. That's the first time that the Max chip would actually have more CPU cores than the Pro chip. And then for the GPU, apparently it's also gonna be either like 32 GPU cores for like the base level option, and then up to 40 GPU cores, which is kind of like what we're seeing right now with the M2 Max chip. So it sounds like maybe for the M3 chip, it's actually gonna be more CPU focused as well. And then again, with the memory increasing, the rumors are currently that they've seen MacBook Pros in testing with 48 gigabytes of memory. So if you do the math, that probably means, okay, the standard configurations right now ship with 16 gigabytes of memory. So if they have 48 gigabyte memory configurations in testing, the base level should probably ship with 24 gigabytes of unified memory. You do the upgrade, then you get to 48 gigabytes of memory. You do another upgrade there, you get 96 gigabytes of unified memory. And that also means for like the max configuration with the most memory, you would take that 96 gigabytes of memory, and if you're doing like the current math of how it currently works, you would half that, and then the MacBook Pros should max out at 144 gigabytes of unified memory. So these are going to be really powerful upgrades, not only with the M3 architecture, but also with the memory upgrades as well. These are going to be really nice laptops. I'm really excited and I'm hopeful we see these. But in terms of like other updates to the MacBook Pro, besides like these spec bumps, maybe a design refresh on the entry-level 13-inch model, I don't think we can expect too many hardware changes. Again, you know, they refreshed that design in 2021. Apple usually keeps MacBook Pro designs around for a while. However, with that being said, there was a rumor that Apple was working on more energy efficient displays for the MacBook Pro that apparently would help save on battery life with the mini LED technology. So maybe that will ship in these MacBook Pros as well and extend the battery life even longer than they already are. And with the M3 possibly being even more energy efficient, generating less heat, it could be a battery boost overall to the 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros, which would be really cool. So yeah, that's basically the Macs that we can expect before the end of October. Again, this was like a last-minute surprise. Earlier rumors basically said like no new Apple products for the rest of the year. So I'm kind of excited that this might actually be happening. So let me know in the comments below, do you think that we will get new Macs before the end of October? Which Mac are you the most excited for? And yeah, when you start to think that Apple does have to replace like the iMac accessories with USB-C, I feel like that one is definitely a given. So yeah, if you like the video, give me a like. If you want to see more, make sure you're subscribed, and maybe I'll see you real soon with more Mac content. So take care, everyone. See you in the next one.